AgWeek Weather is sponsored by Bremer Bank. Connect with a banker today at bremer.com.
How will the weather look for the first week of August in the region? Here's John with our Agri-weather outlook.
Over much of the northern plains, central U.S., western Corn Belt, temperatures for much of July were fairly mild, generally a little cooler than average. And then the end of July, things got really hot. Early August has been very hot. Now we're looking for some relief to that. The question is, will that be a short-term relief, or will the month of August wind up being fairly cool? That to be determined, but we are going to get some cooler weather for certain this week. Central drought, of course, that is not changing very much. I'm not seeing a lot of precipitation coming into the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, the western Corn Belt. I am seeing the areas that have been getting rained on continue to that. That'll be the eastern seaboard and some other areas, which I'll show you in just a minute. Spotty rains elsewhere. Yes, there will be some thunderstorms, but like it's been for the early part of August and the last part of July, rains here, rains there, which are appreciable rains, but you have to get under the right part of the cloud. They're fairly scattered. All right, the big change that we're watching for this week is another surge of cool air, a little bit of ridging taking shape in the west in a northern branch of the jet stream, which is sending down, again, this lobe of cool weather from the Hudson Bay region into the eastern Maritimes of Canada. But because it's August now, it's not really delivering cold weather, but there will be some cooler days, and a lot of this will end up being very mild, all right? A lot of 70s, maybe a day or two that's only in the 60s around the general Great Lakes area. It'll stay hot on the eastern seaboard. We'll beat back the heat a little bit in the south simply by pushing it southward. Still going to be very hot in the southwest and across Texas and across the deep south. Much of the Rockies, western Canada will be warm. By that I'm meaning a lot of weather in the 80s and some of the mountainous areas in the 70s. Sort of normal temperatures or average temperatures, but it will be cooler than average. May even be some freezing days in some spots up around Hudson Bay as we go through this week. Now, for the second week of the pattern, I do expect a little bit of a shift. This will likely gradually kind of retreat a little, which will allow some of that hot weather, that 90-degree heat, to build back into the western high plains, some of the northern plains as well, and it'll look a little more like a typical August pattern. But I think the Great Lakes and northern parts of the Corn Belt will remain a little bit milder. Now, as far as precipitation goes, guess where the rains will be concentrated? You got it, the eastern Corn Belt and the eastern seaboard. Could be some tropical storm activity. It's that time of year for parts of the Gulf Coast states. This will be the monsoon. That looks fairly small. I don't see a lot of stormy weather from that. Of course, the southwest remains dry. Starting to see some steady rain setting up in the Pacific Northwest and Alaska. That will continue, and the rainy patterns will continue to stay rainy. For most of the Great Plains and western Corn Belt, rains will continue to be spotty.